Triple hits all the time.
We are family.
Max Scherzer, double-digit Ks.
We're busting ours to kick yours.
Fun to watch.
Minus 15.
Respect all, fear none.
Into the upper deck.
Intensity is not a curfew.
Oh, mercy.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
From inside the longest contiguous brick building on the East Coast, it is the MASN All Access Podcast. Paul Mancano and Bobby Blanco. And a reminder that today's podcast is brought to you by Marymount University. Visit marymountsaints.com to learn more about our student athletes and programs today. I don't know why I put a little twang on that.
Yeah, I heard a little southern accent.
That was accidental, I swear.
Yeah. Marymount.
And I threw a little fact in there for people to digest. And
is that your new thing? Your new bit? Just throwing in random fact about the warehouse?
Bobby, you got to keep it fresh. You got to keep it fresh. You can't be stale in today's day and age. You know, kids have short attention spans. They're on their phones. You know, they're listening to this on SoundCloud, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, on Google Play. They're doing other things. They're working out. They're hanging out with friends. You know, a lot of kids I hear on Fridays nights in Baltimore will go and hang out and be like, yo, let's not go out tonight. Let's just chill inside and let's put on the MASN All Access Podcast.
Just to hear the tidbit about the warehouse from Paul Mancano.
Exactly.
And
so
from inside the warehouse.
So for you kids out there listening to this right now, you're welcome.
You
for
kids.
This
you kids.
Great. How do you do, Philip?
You're 24.
All right.
Who are you to call someone a kid?
Yeah, this is true. I did when we had. I hosted a Q&A or emceed a Q&A recently with...
Very cool, by the way. Good job.
Thank you. With first, it was the minor league players of the year. So it was Grayson Rodriguez, Ryan Mountcastle, and Mike Bauman. And then the second group was a player development side with Mike Elias, Buck Britton, who's the manager of the Bowie Bay Sox, Kyle Moore, who's the manager of the Delmarva Shorebirds,
Both
Justin Ramsey.
Yeah,
and Justin Ramsey, who's his pitching coach. And I brought up... how young Kyle Moore was. And I said, at first thing, I was so young. And then I realized I was like, I'm like 10 years younger than Kyle Moore.
Yeah.
So,
you guys are being interviewed by a literal child.
Yeah. And he I felt like he could have thrown that right back at me. Yeah. So thank you, Kyle, for not doing that. I appreciate that. But yeah, that was a cool experience, by the way, to bring that up.
That was really cool.
You always, those things, and this is going to sound like I'm, just flattering Orioles fans, but you always do get a sense of that Orioles fans are truly some of the most knowledgeable fans in all of baseball.
Yeah.
Just because they know who these guys were. Like there were people that were coming up to and it helps that you have the minor league teams close by. But there were fans that had legitimate questions. One fan asked Ryan Mountcastle, he goes, Ryan, we got to get you to stay at first. I've seen the numbers. Your numbers are better when you're at first. You hit better when you're playing first base as opposed to third. We got to get you to go there, to stay there.
Yeah.
So it's like, who is going on Baseball Reference looking up Ryan Mountcastle stats in Norfolk, but Orioles fans do.
Yeah, of course they do. They're great. And you also had a good day to do it because it was the last Saturday home game of the season, right? So I was here. I didn't get to go listen to your the Q&A sessions, but I was up here in the warehouse in the studio. And, from the moment the gates opened, they were also doing like one of their last giveaways too, but just flood of orange.
Yeah,
it was
great.
One of their best, I think, I thought, I don't have the number, but one of their best attended home games of the season.
No question.
Rightfully so, because it's the last weekend, the last series for you to come out and see the Orioles in person for 2019. You have to wait until spring training, if not opening day, to come see the Orioles again. So not only did you have great guests, you had great attendance too, and obviously they're knowledgeable, but like a good number of people seem to be coming to that because a lot of people showed up for that game and for the last weekend of the regular season.
Yeah, there was a line
or home series.
They waited until like 5:30 to open those gates up to the center field roof deck, and there was like already a line of like 20 or some people down, all to see me, frankly, which was crazy.
Yeah.
I was, after I was signing autographs left and right. Just kidding. I only signed a few babies.
How's your best friend? Michael Bauman.
Mike Bauman, who I've interviewed about 8 times. Well, it's, in previous instances, I've kind of poked fun at him for getting lost at Oriole Park Camden Yards.
Right.
Because one time I was waiting to do an interview with him and JC Escara, and he was nowhere to be found. And apparently he's just being taken around. but everybody kind of interpreted it as he was lost. Yeah. So I asked him right beforehand. I said, "Can I bring that up during the Q&A?" He's like, "No." So I'm bringing it up on the podcast.
All right.
No, but it was not his fault. I want to make that clear. He's a very smart guy. Also, all three of those guys were massive. All three of the
the professional ball players.
They are, but also three of the tallest players in the Orioles system. Like Grayson Rodriguez is like
actually
6'5", I think.
Yeah, Grayson Rodriguez is huge.
Bauman, I think, is 6'6". He's at least 6'5" or 6'4". I mean, he is legitimately huge. And Ryan Mountcastle is bigger than I expected. He must be at least 6'2", maybe 6'3".
And you're 5'10" on a good day?
5'9" on a good day.
Dang.
Yeah. And today's a good day, so you're welcome.
So 5'10".
Yeah.
Looking good. Big guys, big arms.
Yeah.
And Mountcastle, obviously, MVP of his league, so just slugging baseballs. He's a big guy.
Well, and it was great to see. I mean, those are three guys that obviously had great years. Two of them were kind of expected to and hoped that they would, considering they came into the year as top prospects. Bauman, not so much, kind of on the outskirts of the top 30 for the Orioles system, but he's like a lot of guys in the Orioles system that it just seems like all these guys had great years, and Bauman was one of them. So.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of one of the stories that we've been following along all season for the Orioles, especially with our minor league trips, are guys who are flying under the radar in the system because we talked a bunch about how up here in the Major League Club, guys are fighting for their careers and, trying to impress this new regime and Mike Elias and Brandon Hyde, but it goes so far even down through the minor league system, like all the way down to Frederick and Delmarva, Aberdeen, Gulf Coast. Guys are trying to prove themselves. We belong in the system because not that Mike Elias and company are cleaning house, but they're making their own evaluations and stuff. So I think it was one of the cooler things we did, and getting sentimental on the last regular season podcast, not that we're going to stop podcasting in the offseason, but one of the cooler things I look back on this season that we did at MASN All Access was go through the minor league system. We didn't make it to Norfolk, but go to every minor league club and be able to tell those stories of guys who are maybe flying underneath the radar, guys that Orioles fans should be, because they are passionate fans, should be looking at, not just the Mountcastles, the obviously Adley Rutschman, the Austin Hayeses, guys who are, up and coming and, you could see make the jump from single A to double A to double A to triple A next season or maybe even break camp with the team down in Sarasota next spring.
Well, that is a perfect transition to talk about we started last week with some of the position groups and where we see guys having certain advantages going into 2020 spring training. Maybe not locking up a spot, and we're not guaranteeing anything here, but guys who have impressed this year and are likely to be front runners for jobs come next spring training. We went around the diamond, and now we have left outfielders and we have left pitchers. So big discussions to have. Starting with the outfielders, first and foremost, goodness gracious, Austin Hayes.
Good Lord, that kid. That man is just a beast, flying all over the place. I mean, have you ever... I'm trying to think. Maybe Trey Mancini when he first came up, because he hit a couple bombs in his first couple of games back in, I want to say 2016 when he first came up. But it's not just... And this is no knock on Trey. We know that he's a natural first baseman, and they had to throw him in the outfield. But Austin Hayes making plays not only at the plate, but just flying all over the outfield.
Yeah.
Center field, making diving catches, making robbing home runs, making leaping catches at the wall. I mean, I know his offensive numbers speak to it, and you'll get to that in a second, but the stuff he's done on defense, I mean, the energy he brings, honestly, the energy that he brings, some might say is kind of spicy, like a little...
Is that a wink to the camera?
It was a wink to the camera. It was just, he just brings that energy, that fun energy. And it's just it's exciting. And I know it's been a tough season, and it's been hard for a lot of Orioles fans to see some of these guys, or this team, I guess, just kind of walk through the season and getting beat up on. But I mean, just to see a kid like that who has been known, and also coming back from an injury in the system, to just interject that energy into this team in the last couple weeks of the season, give people a reason to watch while the season's winding down, has just been so awesome for this team and great for Austin Hayes himself.
Well, we had this conversation with Ryan Mountcastle because we were talking about whether he would be a September call-up, because his stats have certainly proved that he earns it. But the question is, is he would him struggling at the big league level, would that really affect how if he were not to be able to do well here? if that would affect his confidence going into next year, if that might be a problem, if he really struggled coming, for the 1 month of the season. But I think it's a different situation when it comes to Austin Hayes, because Austin Hayes has, one, been to the big leagues before. Obviously not a large sample size, but he's been there before. And two, he's a guy that has struggled with injuries, and he did not get the plate appearances that the team was hoping he would get in terms of just total number coming into this year. I mean, because of the injuries that he consistently faces, he just was at a lack for plate appearances, and they wanted to give them to him. So him coming up to the major league level was partly just to say, not as much pressure to do well, but more just to say, we want to see you be in a lineup every day and produce every day. So that I think to me is a big reason why he has gotten the call instead of a Ryan Mountcastle, right? Because they're still around the same age. They still are pretty highly touted, but it has been awesome to see that he has taken this opportunity and run with it.
Well, it's also kind of a point where, they want to see him play every day, give him a shot, but now he's also earning his spot in the lineup every day. It's like now he's got to a point, even though there's 3 games left, Brandon Hyde can take him out of the lineup because he has contributed every day. I mean, I think he went 0-4 on Tuesday, but then came back. It was like 11-4 game Orioles win in Toronto, and everyone in the lineup, I believe they mentioned on the O's Extra postgame show, everyone in the lineup got at least a hit, except for Austin Hayes. And he came back right next day, and I think Wednesday he had at least 1, if not 2 hits yesterday. Yeah. So, and also he did make one play. He missed his first miss in the outfield. But nonetheless, he's a guy that is right. He's taking this opportunity and running with it, literally. And is at a point, again, with just 3 games left, I know, but Brandon Hyde's like, I can't take this guy out of the lineup. He's his number 2 hitter right now.
Yeah.
He's hitting ahead of Trey Mancini and kind of helping jumpstart this offense early on. And, he's hitting 300, again, limited playing time so far in September, but he's not only getting the opportunity, but he's running with it.
Yeah, and honestly, I didn't know that he was this good of a defender and this fast.
He's got that Stevie Wilkerson mindset where I'm just going to run and either something's going to stop me or I'm going to catch the ball.
Yeah, honestly, I thought he might have been injured on that one catch. He crashed into the outfield. He got up immediately, but the way his head hit the wall.
The one where he robbed, kind of jerked back behind the wall.
Yeah, and his hat came off.
Yeah.
I was a little bit worried, but obviously he was fine. But he is full go in the outfield.
And again, that's that energy that you want. You want to see in a season like this. You want a reason to tune in. You want a reason to come to the ballpark. You want to see guys who run out there and give 100% every single out, even though this team's not going anywhere in 2019.
Yeah, and his he, according to StatCast, 86th percentile in terms of sprint speed, which small sample size, but pretty impressive.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when you talk about Hayes in the context of the larger Orioles outfield conversation, because I think you could say the Orioles are pretty deep in terms of their system and outfielders. They have Yasniel Diaz, who is still in AA, but he showed the last couple of months of the season. They moved Ryan Mountcastle, tried him in the left field, so he could be an option there. They still have Ryan McKenna, who's down at the AA level. But it is important, I think, to get a defined center fielder.
Yeah.
Because, there are guys that typically, a guy who's not a very good defender, if they can't throw him at DH or first base, they'll throw him in a corner outfield and then just kind of deal with it there. But you ultimately need somebody in center who is a good outfielder and a very good defensive player. So to see that from Hayes is it inspires a lot of confidence, because you look at the other guys in the system. Diaz he has tools, but he's not a plus defender at this point at Bowie. Obviously, Mancini is a first baseman and only an emergency right fielder when he's needed. So to have somebody who in your system who okay, this guy is going to be at least an average center fielder, that certainly helps. And that gives you more freedom to work on the left field, right field.
But it's been going on for a couple of seasons now, dating back to even when Adam Jones was here. I mean, now I know he had a solid season in Arizona, but Orioles could not help but think ahead and like, all right, who's going to take over when this guy is either no longer here or not playing up to, starts going down on his career, not playing up to the level that we've accustomed to seeing him play at.
Yeah.
Cedric Mullins came up, had a good couple of games last year, I guess, a
Yeah,
stretch
good
run.
month, but-
Was up here beginning of this season, but just couldn't hold on to it.
Yeah.
And I'm not, again, we're also, like you said earlier, we're not declaring anyone as a definite, but you have to feel good about, if you're the Orioles, Austin Hayes right now, because he is contributing both at the plate and can play in the field. And it's almost like, I talk about all the time how I enjoy watching Richie Martin play, and I think he deserves to stay up here, or deserve to stay up here, not just because of his Rule 5 status, but because of his ability to play defense at a valuable position. The center field is the most valuable position in the outfield. Austin Hayes, he's also contributing at the plate, but then also making these fantastic plays in center field. And I don't think we've exactly seen his arm be tested just yet.
No, yeah.
I do recall, I want to say it was Monday in Toronto, there was an opportunity why he threw to third instead of home. And I wonder if that was because he didn't think he'd get it to home, or if just because it was a sack flag type scenario.
Gotcha.
And I wonder if he just threw to third just to be safe and caught up, make sure the runner at second didn't advance as well, which is smart baseball as well. But I wanted to see him just at least try throw to home, because I haven't seen him test his arm yet. But back to my original point, I think the Orioles have to feel comfortable with their outfield scenario. For a good portion of the season, they had Stevie Wilkerson out there, and like we said, he's got that I'm gonna run through a brick wall to catch this ball mentality. That's great, maybe not sustainable, but also, they might want to play him around the diamond more. Use him as more of a utility guy as opposed to a pure outfielder, center fielder. I think before he got scratched the other night when the Blue Jays scratched their starter, he was slotted to play shortstop. Then starter scratch, so Brandon Hyde shuffled his lineup around. So they might want to see him in a more of a utility kind of role, and have Austin Hayes be a straight center fielder. You're the 8th spot.
Right. So besides Austin Hayes, there are a number of options, number of different paths that Brandon Hyde and Mike Elias can go next year when it comes to the roster and the outfield. Hayes, I think at this point we can agree, he's still 24 years old. He's got, assuming, God forbid, he suffers an injury, we hope that he just stays healthy. At this point, that's the most important thing for him this offseason. Stay healthy, come into spring training 100%, and get through a healthy spring training, I think. So Hayes has an inside track for a starting job next year. I think that is clear. Beyond that, Mancini, as mentioned, let's assume that we're going to take a couple steps here. Mark Trumbo is on an expiring contract.
Right.
He may retire after this year. It's an incredible story that he was able to come back, but he's obviously not part of this team's future. So let's assume that we put Trey Mancini and Chris Davis in a kind of switching spot, since we know Davis is coming back. Both of them can DH first base.
Yeah.
And Trumbo's kind of out of the conversation.
Right.
So then that leaves you with a lot of options out there. Yeah. So names I want to go through: DJ Stewart, Anthony Santander, Dwight Smith Jr., Mason Williams, and Stevie Wilkerson. That's 5 names right there. Who among that group to you, Bobby, has been the most impressive?
Santander has to stick out. I mean, this from where he came from as a Rule 5 draft pick himself. Some people have said this might be like the one shining diamond in the rough that Dan Duquette left the Orioles since being let go, and Michael Elias coming in. And this is his last gift to the Orioles, finding Anthony Santander, guy who his first Rule 5 season really struggled. He did not seem prepared. One of those guys who the tools are there. He just needs seasoning, but are they actually going to pan out? He showed pop at some times. He showed he could hit for average, but it just wasn't a consistent basis. Is this guy really going to pan out? And then to come in this season and do the things that he did. I mean, looking at his numbers, 261, not great, but not terrible. 20 home runs, that really sticks out to me. Being able to hit the long ball is something that I didn't think that he'd be able to do on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
I thought he would be more of a guy who and also his defense. I didn't think he could do that on a consistent basis. He doesn't seem like that fast, that athletic of a guy. He's a big kid, big guy. You've sat next to him in person. He's a big guy.
Broad shoulder.
I didn't see that. I didn't see the speed he has in the outfit that he's displayed. He has the arm. That can definitely play out there. But the speed that he's shown this season, I thought was also impressive. But the ability to hit for power, to me, is something that Orioles are going to value. Again, the 261 average isn't fantastic, but I see that as a possibility, like a growing space for him. He could also probably grow there and get better with seasoning. Santana, to me, if you're asking like who's going to lock down spots, I think it's his job in left field to lose going into next spring training just because of the season he had this year.
He was incredibly impressive at the plate. He is just hitting 132 since September 3rd, so potentially some holes in his swing that he needs to get figured out before next year. His defense, not to turn into a scout, his defense, I would say he has the tools, definitely.
I think he's improved.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I think a lot of it might be just kind of giving him more experience, getting him to learn the ins, because sometimes he'll occasionally throw to the wrong guy, he'll occasionally misread a ball. I think that's a place where he could improve, but he has the tools, I think, to
getting used to different outfields as well, too. That's always tricky.
Yeah. So Santander, I completely agree. DJ Stewart is an interesting conversation. He hit 250 in limited time with the Orioles last year. Came up this year again with the expanded roster, hitting just 231, only a 293 on-base percentage, 3 homers. He's 25 years old. He is a former first-round pick. Has not really shown enough in a small sample size to warrant having an inside track at a job, I would say, next year, Bobby. But you don't want to quite give up on him yet, considering he was a first-round pick.
Yeah, you have him under control for however many years left. He's in your system. To me, 2 things. One, his health. We've seen him battle with injuries before, and now it's his head. You know, concussions are always scary, especially when you go through 2 in a season.
Yeah.
Freak accidents, I know, but still, like, health first. He's playing now, which is a good sign. He's consistently playing. His ability for power as a left-handed hitter is just so valuable. I mean, especially with, the type of hitter that Chris Davis has evolved into. You can't really count on him to be your power lefty bat. Can possibly DJ Stewart evolve into that? But then also the other thing that worries me outside his health is the ability to play defense. Do you feel comfortable putting him in right field every day?
Yeah.
And playing defense? He probably has the arm because he's a strong guy. But does he have the speed to cover ground out there? Does he have the smarts, like you mentioned, where you're concerned with Anthony Santander? Does he know where to go with the ball once he gets it at all times? Those type of things come with experience, learning, and playing the game and understanding game situations. But the natural ability to play right field is something, or any outfield position, is concerning to me. I don't know if it's exactly there. He seems to me that could kind of mold back into a DH bench or first base kind of position.
Yeah, I could see that as well. And then the other 3 guys I think are interesting to talk about because they haven't shown a whole lot, and those spots, I don't know how many spots they're going to be up for grabs coming into next year. Dwight Smith Jr., 26. He started out the year on fire, as we might remember, then all the way average fell all the way down to 244. He does have 13 homers. Beyond that, Mason Williams getting a little bit of an opportunity near the end of the year after spending most of the year in the minors. He does have big league experience at age 28. He played in 50-some games for the Reds last year. And then Wilkerson just has been given a ton of opportunities, just has not hit well. 226, 284 on base, and just a 387 slugging. So I think this team definitely values Wilkerson's versatility defensively, but how much do they value it to the point where they can carry his 226 bat?
Yeah, his batting average is definitely the question mark there. I think there will be a place for Stevie Wilkerson on this roster, at least for 2020. I don't think it's going to be on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
I think you can't run him out there when you have a bat like Austin Hayes, possibly. Again, assuming Anthony Santander gets his average up, which is already better.
Yeah.
And then whoever, I mean, you can maybe, if DJ Stewart comes into spring training and just doesn't show the ability to hit for average or even the long ball like you're expecting and really grasping defense out there, you can maybe risk running Steve Wilkerson out there and burying him in the bottom of the lineup. But I know ideally someone like Diaz, has a really good spring training, or whoever else,
right.
Ryan McKenna maybe, or Cedric Mullins maybe, can take that next step and jump up here and snatch that role from him, and then you can stash Stevie Wilkerson on your bench as a utility guy for a late defensive substitution or pinch running. I
would say, regardless of how this shakes out, you got to feel good about that outfield group going forward, the potential of that.
There's a lot of potential, and there's options. They're going to have choices. They're going to, and hopefully tough choices to make. And February and March next year. But yeah, like you said, there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah, especially considering you still have those guys mentioned. You still have a Diaz and McKenna in the minors, just waiting to come up, and maybe a Mountcastle will be inserted into the outfield, so that'll be exciting. All right, let's switch over to the pitchers. I want to give you, how many names do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 names that I think absolutely will be locks next year. Alex Cobb, we know about his injury history, but as Mike Elias said, he is expected to be in spring training, and he wants a full year out of him.
It's got 2 years left, man. I mean, I don't think there's much of an option there.
Yeah.
I mean, ideally, this was probably supposed to happen this season. Obviously, with the injury, didn't.
Right.
But ideally, he gets healthy, has a full spring training, has a good start to the 2020 season, and becomes a trade chip.
Paul Fry, I think, has earned an option as a specialty kind of guy coming out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
I think he has been, not as good as of late, but still one of the few pitchers with an ERA around 4 at this point. So I like his potential. Bundy, obviously, he's going to be here. Michael Givens, obviously, he's going to be here. Still one of the more valuable trade chips in theory that this team has going into next year. Miguel Castro showed some signs before that grand slam a couple weeks ago. He was looking like he was turning a corner. And then John Means, of course. So those 7, and Hunter Harvey, I should not forget, of course. The similar issues with Austin Hayes. Just got to prove that he's healthy. He has all the potential in the world. He just needs to have a full, healthy spring training and show that he can stay healthy.
Yeah, and he will be their best arm out of the bullpen if Hunter Harvey is healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, we've seen it, touching up triple digits. I mean, he blew away some of the best hitters that the Orioles have gone up against in the few innings that he pitched, and in tough spots too. So if he has that mentality, again, it's a little saddened that he was the guy that was kind of tagged to be with Dylan Bundy and Kevin Gausman at the top of this rotation for the future plans. Didn't work out that way, but good to see him healthy, getting major league experience, and possibly reinventing himself as a strong bullpen arm.
That'd be awesome. I mean,
possibly the closer. He has closer stuff that can, to get 3 out. And the big stage doesn't seem to move him at all. Like, he seems locked in and he can do it.
Son of a major leaguer as well. So a guy that, we're all the potential, just really hoping he can stay healthy. Beyond that, Bobby, I don't want to go through all the names because there are 38.
There are a lot of pitchers.
38 guys pitched at least some portion of the season for the Orioles.
Not including the handful of position players.
Yes. There are a ton, and frankly, not too many performances that are of note at this point. I think one guy, Brandon Klein, is interesting for the future, considering he still has a lot of potential, but really did not perform all that well, went up and down a few times, 6 ERA. Other than that, I mean, you have your Evan Phillips.
Here's the thing about Evan Phillips was the guy I wanted to bring up and he's drawing some eyes as of late. Brandon Hyde talked about him at one of his pregame sessions earlier this week in Toronto, and I believe all the reporters that were there in Toronto have been writing about Evan Phillips because the guy hasn't let up a run in this month. He's been really well, and Brandon Hyde said when he's throwing strikes down in the zone, he's got great stuff. His stuff will play up here, and he can get outs.
Yeah,
and that's his key. So if Evan Phillips can continue to be that kind of guy, continue to throw strikes down the zone, get guys out, he will be a solid piece in this bullpen, I believe, for next year.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, and that's one less guy you have to worry about.
Right.
In that handful of names you just named of guys with serious question marks around him. And this is a guy who came over in the trade, right? He was a trade piece last year, and the kind of selling the house a couple years ago.
I think so, yeah.
And if they again kind of found a guy, a gem out of that. Again, there was 3 guys for 15 players. You hope a couple of them stick. If Evan Phillips is a guy that you can stick in the bullpen and feel comfortable about, that's one less question mark you have to worry about.
Ryan Eads has done well as of late in 6 games. He's got a 3.52 ERA. He might be of note. Tanner Scott, the guy that everybody has wanted to, I lump him kind of in with Jimmy Yacobonis of guys that we've seen a lot of, but have not seen good consistency out of.
Mm-hmm.
I think those 2 guys, we did not see the consistency that we wanted to see coming into this year. But beyond that, Bobby, are there any other names that you think really have stood out and have gotten themselves an inside track for next year?
Well, you mentioned Gabriel Ynoa, and I feel like he does get a kind of a bad rap.
Okay.
But I don't know if it's entirely. I'm trying to look it up right now because he's made some important starts for this team down the stretch. I mean, I know this starting rotation is anything but complete. You know, it's like Brandon Hyde is just kind of piecing it together as he goes along. I'm sure he can't wait to not have to fill out a lineup for a while after the season and pick a starter. But yeah, his ERA is 6. But I just feel like every time he goes out, he's one of those guys that is giving the Orioles a chance to win. You know, he's not going to go 7-8 innings. He might not even go 6, but he's a good opening piece to a bullpen game that allows Brandon Hyde and the Orioles to not dig themselves too deep of a hole to begin with. You know, gets you 4 or 5 innings to start, and then hopefully, again, the bullpen is the worst in baseball, so it's hard to piece together a bullpen game like that. But, you know, keeps the Orioles in the game early. I believe he only gave up 2 runs the other night in his start against the Blue Jays, which, again, not a great lineup, but keeping him in the game. And he's the guy, he might be able to serve some type of role on this team moving forward, being that kind of, let's call him a flex, you know, a flex emergency starter, flex innings eater out of the bullpen.
That's fair. And one other guy I do want to mention is Asher Wojciechowski. I think he's 30 years old, obviously, so he's not a young pup, but he has shown the ability to, like you said, Bobby, like you said with Ynoa, to at least eat up innings, and that is going to be very valuable, just like it was this year. It's going to be just as valuable next year.
Where does Richard Blyer fit in this conversation?
I really don't know, honestly, Bobby. Yeah. I have no idea.
He's arbitration. He's still going through arbitration eligible because, I mean, he kind of got a late start, even though he's 32. You know, left-hander, we saw a couple years ago, even as early as last year, when he didn't play too many games last year, though, but
he had a sub-2 ERA.
Yeah, and when he did have 57 appearances back in 2017, kept it under 2.
Yeah.
So this is his first year he's ever had an ERA above 2. It's at 5.43 right now through 51 appearances. Is he a guy that, yes, he's left-handed, has an okay track record and limited, considering his age, limited time. Does he have a place on this team, even though he's arbitration eligible? Do you think he's kind of like one of those, like we talked about Alex Cobb, one of those bounce-back guys? Maybe he can stay healthy through spring training and have a solid first half and then become a valuable left-handed pitcher out of the bullpen for July 31st.
And he has pitched well in this month of September as well, keeping opponents to hitting just 143 against him in 13 innings. I think so, just because we've seen how teams will overpay for relievers at the deadline.
Right.
So I think anytime you have a veteran-type guy that is under control like that has shown the ability in the past. I mean, Michael Givens, for all intents and purposes, was not having a very good year right before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But he was still being talked about because that's how desperate teams get for relievers. So I think Blyer could be kept on as a potential trade piece for next year. Another guy for which health is very important.
Yeah. I wasn't to say, like, he's not going to be here. He's going to be here because, I mean, his one, not a great season again. Who's going to take him? And two, he's pre-arbitration eligible. While the Orioles might as well just cough up the extra couple $1 million to keep him around, whatever it may be. No, I was more so wondering, like, long term. Do you think he's a long term piece? Like, I just think right now he's 32. I think he'll be 33 by next season. Yeah, he turns 33 in April, 2 days after my birthday. So just because of his age,
right?
But also, he's controllable. I mean, he's not a free agent until 2023, so you can keep him around and maybe just have him be that veteran presence in the bullpen that's lights out and goes back to being that setup man that you counted on back in 2017 for these young guys. Could you imagine if you give a solid Richard Blyer the 8th inning and then a Hunter Harvey the 9th inning in like 2 or 3 years? I mean, that's pretty solid. And a left-hander, again, valuable. It'll be interesting to see how he fits in their plans, and if he becomes worthy of trading, or if he becomes because of his contract, his late start in his career. Let's just hold on and see how he plays out.
You said he was born 2 days after your birthday?
His birthday is 2 days after. No, he's 32. He's going to be 33. I'm 27. He's 5 years old.
There we go. And I'm 15, as we established at the beginning of this. He made his debut on my birthday, fun fact.
Oh.
May 30th.
Just so many birthday
There you go. And the day I was born, 2016. Yeah, I'm 2 years old.
You're 3.
That just about does it for our discussion about the pitchers, though. But we will have a long off season full of podcasts to break down the position groups, to break down the Orioles offseason moves. Are they going to sign any free agents? Are they going to play it safe like they did last year, not spend any money? Or are they going to go out there, maybe sign a veteran or two, sign some minor league free agents, and get ready for next year? It'll be another interesting offseason now that Mike Elias will have a full offseason. Last year, hired in November, didn't have the full offseason. Now he will.
I think the minor league spring training invites will be super interesting.
Yes.
I mean, that's very far down the line. That's months on the line into January, February.
But fans are already looking ahead.
I mean, why not? I think it's gonna be interesting. Not only the minor leaguers already in the system that are going to get invited, but free agents, guys. Let's just give them a tryout, because that's how they kind of pulled guys like a Dwight Smith Jr. or
Hanser Alberto.
Just give them a shot and let them see what they have. What's the harm? It's this team isn't going. Hey, and also, before we sign off, Orioles locked in the number 2 overall pick.
That's right.
For 2020.
That is
with
right.
The loss.
So not exactly number 1, but I have a feeling we'll do a show.
We'll do a show, and I think they'll find a good solid player at 2.
Yeah, not exactly like they're going to find their franchise quarterback at. It's a crapshoot as well.
I was going to say, is that a shot at the Giants?
No,
Daniel Jones?
Not at all. Not at all.
Redskins play him this week.
Okay. I thought you had to.
He's going to torch us.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Yikes. That would be bad. Just keep him under 30 points. All right. We want to say thank you all year for listening to the MASN All Access podcast, but a reminder that we will be around all off season, probably weekly episodes, just like we did during the season. We will come to you on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, Google Play. You can watch us on the MASN All Access Facebook page and MASN Orioles YouTube. And just remember to have a good, enjoyable week before we see you again, and an enjoyable offseason.
3 games left in the 2019 season, man. Watch some baseball.
And you always say, Bobby, enjoy it while it lasts, because you don't know what you have.
Especially this fan. I mean, this fan base is so baseball hungry all the time.
Yeah.
There's only 3 games left. 7 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all on MASN. Just sit back, watch the games, because you're going to have to wait until late February to watch another baseball game. So you might as well enjoy it.
He's at Bobby_Blanco on Twitter. I'm at Paul Mancano on Twitter. Thank you for listening to the MASN All Access podcast, brought to you by Marymount University. Visit MarymountSaints.com to learn more about our student athletes and programs today.